Here we go. We're rolling.
So tell us a little bit where are we and what's going to happen with
All
this.
right. Right now we are at Sarah Ann Street and Carrollton Avenue. So behind me are the Sarah Ann Street houses. You see these colorful houses. They've been colorful houses almost since their building. I believe it goes back to 80s or the 70s since these houses have been painted multiple colors. This is said to be the first settlement of free slaves here in Baltimore from the Carroll Park Mansion and or Plantation. Carroll Park is just about a mile away from here in Poppleton, and the homes have been occupied by black residents since the 1800s, late 1800s. So the history here, this whole block has already been set. It was preserved up until 2021. So every 10 years, I believe, you're supposed to re-sign to get reapproval for the historic designation. That's only with the eminent domain and urban renewal law. So the urban renewal law is actually jeopardizing this sacred land and these historic houses. Now, not only is this plot historic, but the city tried to say that the properties weren't built until 1930, 1920. The rest of the properties at Carrollton Avenue, which those properties go back to the 1800s as well. And my family, I learned throughout this whole process, I learned more about my history and my culture, my personal family history. So I told you I'm a fourth generation resident here. And I learned that because this property where my parents currently reside at 319, it was owned by only two families. The first family, I believe, was a German. They were soldiers, captain and a colonel. His family owned here. And then after that, in the early 1920s, my family, they purchased this property, and we've been the owners. This house has been in our family since 1920. So just knowing our own personal history, a part of Poppleton, a part of this block, it's beautiful to know, because even in those times, having being a property owner was rare for black people, especially a property of this size. It's over 4,000 square foot property. So it was definitely a pleasure to hear my history and see how much we are embedded in the community. But everything, my memories are here. My kids, they grew up here. My parents, they have 13 grandkids. They've raised 5 kids here. And my grandfather, he lived 1 block away on Curry Street. He used to live where the highway to nowhere is now. So development has been talked about in Poppleton or talked about in West Baltimore, but that's why the people are hopeless a bit, because it's so much promised, preached about. Like, we have a different mayor, it seems like every other session, this is coming and we're going to do this and money's on the way, and nothing ever happens. So the highway to nowhere, it was cut with Governor Hogan's last piece. And they just stripped the money and took it to a place where he grew up, in Silver Spring area. And the consideration of, well, if you have power, you can choose where development takes place. What about the people who lived here? What about the people who pay taxes, who invested here, who raised families, who fought it out to stay here? Because many people were displaced, but some homeowners actually wanted to live in the city and loved their house in the city. So just to see that, to be preserved, and the culture. I mean, when you strip away places, you not only take away the buildings, but you take away the culture and the people. So if we can bring that back, Baltimore has a strong dance culture, and in the cities, it's no real many people didn't have backyards, so this field is only here because they mowed down houses. So it's not a lot of green spaces normally in a lot of inner cities, but people played in the streets. I mean, you have a stoop, and then you have water fights, water balloons, baseball, basketball, dodgeball, whatever you could consider in the streets. And these are just ways that people just played in the way we kind of commune. And no longer do you see that because there aren't any people. Baltimore's vacant.
And what's going to happen with that building and when?
So we don't know exactly when. Right now we're fighting. Thanks to the support of community members like Nicole King, and there's a couple other organizational groups who actually came out to help to get us nationally registered. So historic registration helps protect these properties from highway construction and new development, future development, but we're trying to find a way of designation to protect them from urban development as well, so not just highways. So the highway to nowhere that came in, they didn't have any protection. they was able to remove over 900 families, over 900 homes, over 6,000 families. Here, if we don't protect it, then it's about 11 houses, I think 12 houses, as well as just the families have already been displaced. So right now we're trying to fight and save the 12 houses and rehab them so that families can move back for home ownership. So that's the goal, and we'll hopefully have the designation in for historic to keep it and preserve it by the end of this year.
So something more that you want to add about these buildings?
Yeah, so I mean, it's more of an ask, a call to action. If you all can support us by coming out, we have a petition online with change.org. Organize Poppleton is our placemaker on Facebook, social media. So if you look up Organize Poppleton, then you can learn about the story of the residents, people who have lived here for generations who are currently being displaced, and ways that they want to come back and ways that you all can help them. We got a letter writing campaign at this moment to get to the mayor's office because the mayor has the power to stop and desist. So we want to be able to see if we can have, the leadership of the city who say they want to save black homes, save black communities, and save black culture, if they'd be willing to step up. But we need support from other folks. So if we can have folks to help us with the letter writing campaign as well as the petitions. Other than that, just kind of coming, if you lived in Baltimore, if you lived in Poppleton, sharing your story. When did you live here? Why did you love living here? If you had the chance to move back, would you move back? Because we want to show that people are here. Sometimes they say that if you don't have enough voices, your voice never gets heard. And so far they've been saying there's been one person fighting for one house. We want to show that it's been more than one person, but if it is only one person is worth fighting for. One house is worth fighting for. But if you all would be willing to assist us, that letter writing campaign as well as that petition would be a great way to help us preserve this block of houses, my mom's house, and our family house here on Carlton Avenue.
Do you have a question? By any chance, do you happen to know why those houses are so colorful compared to what the other houses in the neighborhood are just like brick houses?
I don't know why they were chose to be painted colors, but as I said, it's been that way for almost 100 years now.
Just curious.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing.
It is. It looks very nice.
Yeah, and everybody is able to identify this as the colorful row houses, because there's many row houses or alley houses, but it's the colorful row alley houses, and they've been documented different decades since the 80s.
So demolishing this area would definitely strip the place from part of its identity then.
Yeah, definitely if you demolish it. Yeah, because people who recognize and know that this is here on Sarah Ann Street, they know about these colorful houses. So if they're gone and you go through Poppleton or ride past Sarah Ann Street and you don't see them, you would definitely know. Yeah, it's not the same community.
So I feel like there's been a lot of people trying to gentrify and then their terms they phrase it as like making the area better.
Mm-hmm.
You said that there are people that do rehabs for houses to keep it the way it is. Are there like organizations or programs that are doing that right now in the area that aren't trying to increase the housing rates but just make it a livable area?
Yeah, so there's Southwest Partnership is working with a group working with Lowe's, and Lowe's have a nonprofit group called Rebuilding Together. So Rebuilding Together, they come in, refurbish houses. It doesn't have a cap, so I've seen some as low as $30,000, but as much as $80,000 worth of improvements been done to current residents. So it's helping current residents stay in their community, and it doesn't cost them anything. So to be able to have a new roof put over your head, ADA accessible steps, new railways, or to be able to make improvements inside. A lot of these houses are old. Baltimore is an old city, so a lot of rehab and revitalization is needed. But when you have, again, redlining, you have residents who purchased their home who didn't have loans that were equitable in their favor, and then over time they don't have the money to get refinance the house so that they can make improvements. That was one of the acts that we had for the community. One second. So one of the acts that we did have for the developer was that if he could use some of the TIF money to help out current residents to rehab their houses to get their quality up to the same price, so that this would raise their equity in their homes. So like if you have just made a grant available for maybe $1 million and 100 people could have got $10,000 to make somewhat improvements to their house. it would have been great raising the whole property value, the community value, and the neighborhood value as well. So those are things that we're glad to have rebuilding together in the area to provide that service for current residents.
I guess good points. I feel like I see, unfortunately, I have a few people that were in my high school that have moved to Baltimore to
Rehab.
invest in real estate, but I just don't see the benefit from those people because I don't think they're just trying to make the most money.
Understand?
But
Yeah, because I mean, you got some, it's like I have a lady who, she does really good work, but she wants $1,700 for a carriage house. It's a 2-bedroom space. And I'm like, man, every other property on that block is between $900 and $1,200 to rent, you know, but she's from a different city. She moved to Baltimore and started investing here. So people who make investments want a high return, you know, as versus just making improvements to where you already are. I understand investments, but over time, you'll still be able to regain that capital. You probably don't get it in the upfront, and you can get it at a $900 to $1,200 rate. You know, just you'll be here a little longer. And if you're invested in the community, you want to be here for the long term. So.
yeah, that's where a lot of places increase it every year.
Every year,
Just to get that little bit
$100.
extra when there's not that much of a maintenance that they need to do if it's already an updated
Right.
house versus
Right.
the houses that aren't updated that just need a little more.
And that kills me. Every year, $100, but like your pay don't increase. I don't know when the last time minimum wage has been increased in the state, let alone just people you get like a 1%, 2% raise if you're working with the job, even for 20 years. So yeah, the ratio for capitalism in America, it is always a growing gap, always a growing divide of those who have and those who have not.
I just have one last thing. Do you think there's a negative like outlook or perspective of people that don't come from Baltimore that come in and try to help out with the city?
Yeah, I'll say yeah and no. It depends. It really depends on the mindset of the people who are here, who are engaging with those who come in. So when I first started engaging with folks outside of the city, I don't know who called them, but it's a transplant. So when you move to a new city and you relocate, so those transplants, I was saying that they are the ones who are most active and making new laws, policies, organizing in the communities. Where residents who have been here, when I said earlier, if we can help residents who have been here to learn about their power, organize for their community, and raise capital, then we will see probably a difference in how it's been done and the respect for the community. But you have people who move into communities and they'll build up their 4 walls, but don't really build in the community, you know, so it's not really, you do invest in your property, but it doesn't make the community better. So I see people who live here or from here, they are more community focused because they don't have, I guess, as much apprehension of dealing with inner city, where some people who move here, they, just off of perspective, you know, think it's unsafe. So they'll live within their 4 walls. They'll go out of the community to go grocery shopping and then come back into the community to live again in their 4 walls. I've only encouraged those transplants to live outside of their 4 walls, you know, to come and engage with community residents, get to know your neighbors, and walk the neighborhood, letting people see who you are, and then you can in turn meet the people of Baltimore. But I do think that the transplants have been very active. You see Strong City Baltimore over East Baltimore. That it's changed Midtown tremendously in a short time frame. So when you get a lot of people with a lot of great energy, things can happen. It's the hope that we can reinstill, or those folks can reinstill in the people who are already here. So if you have ideas, I think it's great to share them with people who have been there, and they can share some of their ideas of what was here in the past, and then find a good medium. Yeah, but I don't think they do more harm than not. I think that they're better because you get people here. Otherwise, it'd be vacant spaces, and like I said, the places need to be revitalized. I thank you all. I appreciate y'all coming.